live.
All right.
And we are live. I am live once again with Jenson.
Me.
say that again, Jenson.
Me. I'm alive. They can't kill me.
They haven't killed you yet.
That's fair.
And your term
I have
alive is
column.
somewhat suspect anyway. You've
It's
been
fair.
putting things in my
Oh, don't
chat.
don't start with that thing about eating meat. I mean, self-cannibalism. What is wrong with that? That's what I say. No harm, no foul.
What do you mean,
Okay.
no harm, no foul? It's like the holy grail of what do you call it? The
What?
holy grail of cannibalism.
Again, do not see an issue. Works fine for me. Now we have Jacob. Hey, dude.
Hey, Jacob, welcome. This is a non-planned stream that I decided to just go live with, just so I could chat with Jensen for a while, who I haven't spoken with for a bit. And I had some questions, and he's got some questions and some things. So we're just gonna do a little round robin chatting around and see how things actually flesh out with this
Yeah.
little after hours programming that we're doing today. Okay, so I was asking Jensen earlier whether or not he considered himself an at-risk youth, and
Yes, she was. And hey,
growing up.
Batman.
Hello there, Jensen. Hello, Nonads. And the real
Hello,
question you've got to
Batman.
ask him is, does Jensen consider himself a human?
Thank you.
I don't know if Jensen considers himself a human. I've got to put Jensen back into his
Yes.
superiority
Yes,
years.
the gaming spheroid is squarely in your part of the area.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and this actually, since you're on here, Batman, you decided to join us. Welcome, by the way. I'm going to ask the question to you. Do you consider yourself an at-risk when you were growing up, an at-risk youth?
At risk from what?
Well,
Good answer.
growing up in a broken home, in
No.
a difficult situation, in a
Nope.
bad neighborhood, etc., etc.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, there were humans in my neighbourhood, so it was a bad neighbourhood. No, it's
Yeah.
joking apart. My neighbourhood was no worse than most other people's in the 70s. I didn't live in a broken home. I wasn't at risk from stuff that you've mentioned.
Yeah. I would like to point out here, Nomad, the term at risk could easily be different between England and America. After all, England has, how am I going to put this? And I'm hoping Batman would agree here. We have a very different outlook at what classes as at risk to America does.
Yeah.
Would you agree there, Batman?
I would agree. Yeah.
I need to disagree, but I'll explain why. It's
Yeah.
it's not a it's not that I don't understand what you're trying to reference. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but the difference is what you're calling at risk today is you catching up to us from the past due to the, and I mean that because due to the
Mm-hmm.
demographics that you have had in the past, let's be honest, 30 years, a huge shift,
Mm-hmm.
demographic shift.
Yes.
It's not like the United States yet, but it's a lot closer than it was 30 years ago.
It will never be like the United States because it's not big enough, for one thing.
Hold there, Batman. Actually, I think, and I could be wrong, but I think I understand where Nomad is going with this. So please continue, Nomad. I think I've got what you're saying, mate.
Okay, so what my question is
You're about
this,
social and political, aren't you?
well, in a certain sense, but not really. This is more of a how do you deal if you have for example, both of our nations have a stupid attitude toward education.
Yes.
In that,
Yes.
and what I mean by that is that attitude is, oh, we have to give everyone a free education.
Yes.
Okay. Now, on the surface, that sounds all well and good. The problem is when you're dealing with quote unquote at risk youth or an area that has, for lack of a better term, problems, right? With parents that do not try to get their children to give them at least the basics of a home life conducive to learning, such as teaching helping your kids to read, helping your kids to write,
I
helping your
think
kids
in
to.
the UK, the vast majority of parents still do that or still try to do that.
Yes. Well, and the vast majority of parents in the U.S. do that too, right? But there are in the urban areas, the heavily urban areas, all right, a a lack of that kind of uh, parenting that happens, and some of it, of course, is not when you're dealing with a single parent home. The parent has to work, okay, so that dynamic
Yeah.
is got to shift at that point, okay. Not
Mm-hmm.
all work. I mean, there are some jobs lend toward having people at home. Other jobs, as you I'm sure are very well aware, all right, both of you, all right, don't. Okay. Would you agree with that?
So far, I have no problem with what you said.
Okay. Now,
Oh, I'm sorry, I nodded off there. I
That's
know.
old age, Batman. It's okay. We understand,
No,
mate.
that's through not going to bed.
Uh,
That's also through old age.
fair point. Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
let me ask this, because Jensen was a let's be blunt here, from the discussions we've had. You were pretty much a wild child, right?
Well, yes. I'm going to be blunt. Yes. I
Yeah.
mean, technically, to you two, I was actually the outlier to where kids are nowadays. I did the climbing trees, climbing fences, stealing apples, chasing dogs. Do not start with the eating people line before either of you two think it, because I know that's coming.
No, I was going to call you a little urban fucking Tarzan.
I was actually termed a little shit.
Well,
I mean,
So
that was
no
an
change
official
there
term.
then.
Fair
no, we
point.
we understand that part, okay. And obviously, I wasn't the kind of hellraiser that Jensen was, but I was an outsider throughout my entire high school for the most part. Right. I didn't really fit, but overall my grades were very very good. Okay.
I was
Yeah.
an army brat. I didn't fit, obviously.
Well, that leads to this next question. Okay. Um, and I realize that your schooling system in comparison to ours is quite a bit different as well. But
Yes.
Jensen, would y- if you if the schools that you were in were more regimented along the lines of, let's say, Japanese style regimented social construction in their schools, all right,
Mm-hmm.
where where they go in there full bore and say, okay, here's where you're going to be, here's what you're going to do, basically running, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but they seem to be very very much along the lines of military style education.
That's what I
No,
Right.
was waiting for you to say.
I
Mhm.
Right.
wouldn't. I wouldn't say so. Really, the kind of, from what I've seen in Japanese schools, that kind of remind me of comprehensive schools. Where a school uniform, you've got a timetable to adhere to. You've got to be such and such a place at such and such a time.
That was literally the school I used to go to. But
Yeah.
I can answer that, Nomad, but I have to give you two answers. Okay.
Okay.
Given my specific situation. When I was in basically being a student, no, that would have been terrible for me because, as pre-stated, I was a little shit. Okay, I, as much as I hate to say it, I was exceptionally intelligent, And the mistake they made was they worked it out and then told me, which was stupid straight away. Okay.
Yep.
And to give you an idea, Batman, when they actually done an IQ test on me, and I came at 13, I came up with 168. Okay. So
I think
yeah,
I've got 120, 130 something.
yeah, that's what the sort of level I get nowadays. When I was stoned out of my tits, and I was incapable of walking, I would do one of those IQ tests first thing in the morning just for the sheer shits and giggles. And I was getting, I think it was, my best was about 135, I think.
The 120, the upper 120s and the 130 odds are above average intelligence, but nothing.
But what I'm referring to from a military style kind of a regimented schooling environment means not just when you're a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm also referencing this as when you're in the third grade, when you're 10, when you're 9, having these kind of a regimented mental way of handling the schools. Would you have been better off, or would it have helped you develop skills that you would have been able to use later on?
I don't think it would have made us any. We would have been any better off or any worse off, to be perfectly honest.
I would preface this with one question: Am I capable of respecting the teacher, Ahmed? Because this is your précis we're doing. So, would you say that the teacher was able to teach me to give them respect as a teacher?
Well, yeah. I mean, they have.
Yes.
Think of it along the lines of the teacher is in charge and has multiple methods left that, just like the military did early on during basic training, right?
You know what you're talking about.
To enforce that respect.
Yeah. In that case, yes. Actually, that would have been better because it would have taken away a lot of the wild child part of me. Would it have completely removed me? No.
Whereas other kids, it would have been the reverse.
Yes, I have always been the atypical outlier because it's the way I was brought up.
That's the difficulty with education. What works for some kids isn't going to work for other kids.
Well, no. There will be the. I agree with what you're saying, Batman, but there's a point. Okay.
It's very rounded.
No, there's a point of when I was using, I was very specific about saying at-risk kids. Okay.
Yep.
And this goes to, quite frankly, in the United States, the problem that we're dealing with within certain segments of our society / neighborhood. Okay. And one of the problems that I have, all right, with our system is the excuse making. All right. Hi, Ms. Murder. And hi, Mr. Nibs. Or Nimble, rather. I have a problem with the teachers and the teacher unions. Okay? Because they use the excuse of the problem is the parents, and it all starts with the parents, and if the parents don't start this, then we're doomed to failure.
That's not what I got when I went to school. Seriously, that is not the attitude when I went to school. Even as a school kid, you could tell there's a clear line where the teachers don't cross, which is your parents' jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Then again, I went to school at a time when teachers were absolutely forbidden to discuss matters of politics or religion with pupils.
Well, I don't have if in a public school setting, discussions about religion and things like that were never really much of an issue to begin with. All right. Because people tended to avoid those things anyway, to a degree. There was still a bit of attempted socialization that went on.
It wasn't when I went to school, but then again, I went to school in England.
Yes, The U.S. is the
very.
U.S. is a lot different, and I understand that. But my problem is with these teachers are this: as soon as you end up with a situation like it was recently reported that a school that was it's a public school, but it receives extra funding and so forth from one of our big NBA celebrities, right?
Okay.
And of the students in the 8th grade this last year, none, none of them passed the 8th grade math test.
Well, is this the
Wow.
teachers or the pupils?
The pupils.
No, good question. That's actually a good question.
Okay.
Sorry to put a minor thing on this, but I actually had this wonderful argument with one of my teachers. She set this puzzle up, wrote it out on the board, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, "Yeah, you got that wrong." And so she's going through it, she's getting people to answer, and they're all like, "We don't know, we don't know." And it got to me, and it's like, "Okay, Quinn." And I'm like, looked at him, and I was like, "By the way, you know something? You got it wrong." What? Yeah, well, one, you spelt that, and that wrong, which they did. And no, it's not the Americanized spelling, which weirdly I'm okay at, working out, but they spelt it wrong completely. And then it was like, and that, and that do not equal that. So you got that wrong. So basically, you're giving us, wait a minute, false premise. I noticed that even back then, I still took a few seconds to basically organize my brain. And I got in so much trouble for this. I ended up being sent to the headmaster, which you guys would call principal. And it was like, how dare you attempt to embarrass the teacher? And like, I wasn't, I was pointing out a mistake.
I pointed out mistakes from my teachers before, and
Yep.
I didn't get any of that. That was just.
Okay. Hey, all right, Sam?
Hello.
Yeah, I'm all right. Hey, JJ.
Yeah.
Glad to see you back. You're up
No,
early.
I'm still alive. But anyway, yeah, I got an awful lot of trouble just for being accurate.
Right.
It's actually kind of funny.
Now, in the thing the problem I have with the schools is the fact that all the teachers want to make the excuse that okay, the students are at risk students, that you're never going to expect high achievement from them, yada yada yada, and that the parents, they have a bad parenting home, yada yada yada. And it's not that I don't recognize the validity of their arguments. The problem that I have with them is look, then you have to change the environment of your school into a far more structured and linear disciplined environment in order to maximize the chances for the students to learn. If you cannot do that or refuse to do that, all right, then don't bother coming to school. Don't bother going to that bother showing up to try and teach because you'll never be able to do it.
Yeah.
I am actually very uniquely able to answer this and kind of why I jumped in. MC, your original question was if the way that most of the Asian schools, how their school system works, if that would be beneficial or if that would be more detrimental if it was replaced, if it replaced the American schooling methods. Is that correct?
That's not correct. Okay.
Or if they were more similar.
Yeah, no. I was referring to specifically in the areas where you have a plethora, for lack of a better term, of at-risk students. All right.
That depends on how you define at risk, because each school district has a very different method of who is at risk and who is not. Sometimes it's determined by poverty. Sometimes it is determined by how many kids have an IEP, and I was one of those kids. I had an IEP. I was diagnosed with neurological disabilities at a very young age. I was only 6. And
1 sec, Sam. Back in a moment, guys. I need to pee. Carry on.
yeah. Then you also have, okay, well, what about behavioral issues? That also plays in a factor. So here's the thing. For certain students, for the average student that has nothing wrong with them, psychologically, neurologically, all that, yes, a more structured, I wouldn't say in depth, I'd say a more practical kind of approach would be more beneficial for them. Because here's what I learned in school, okay? I'm 30 now. I'm probably the youngest here. So I most recently graduated. I remember that the Great Fire of London was in 1666. I know the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. I know what fucking chlorophyll is. I have not once used fucking algebra in my life since graduation.
You have. You just
and I'm including college there.
I guarantee you have used algebra, not even realized.
Nope.
Yes.
Nope.
Yes.
I have not.
It might just be the basic forms of algebra, but I guarantee you sit up there and taken a look at, okay, this is what the cost of X, Y, and Z is, which is what algebra is just transposing the formulas to get the equation that you're looking for. Now you may do it without
Nope.
creating an equation hardwired, right? Oh, so you don't go into a store and go, okay, what I'm buying these things. How much is it basically going to cost?
That's basic.
Here's the thing. That is not algebra. That is purely basic math.
That algebra is.
I also have to have someone in there helping me do so, because of my disability, I'm practically number blind. Numbers just do not compute in my head.
X plus 6 equals 12 is an algebraic equation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm back.
Okay, but you're missing my point completely.
3x, all right, 3x plus 1 is an algebraic equation. You do that when you're going to just regularly calculate. Okay, I got 6
no, you
apples
don't.
of doing this. I do.
No,
But when I go
you
to
don't
the
use
store,
algebra.
you're a fucking genius.
I'm hardly a genius.
One of the things about algebra is finding the unknown value in your equation. When you go into a shop and you're calculating how much you're going to have to spend, but when you get the checkout, you've got all of the values there to hand.
You don't have the ending value. And
but that's not algebra.
Basic mathematics.
And
in algebra, you don't know the value of one of the letters, for want of a better word, in the equation, not the outcome. Most of the time you're given
you're
the
already aware of the outcome. That's what.
Oh, okay.
Like you said,
so
X
if you
plus
have
6
something
equals
saying,
12.
If you have something saying that 3 for $10, we'll just use an equation real quick here. 3 for $10, and you're trying to then figure out, okay, is that going to be better than 2 for $7.50? You're going to tell me you don't sit up there.
That's division.
It
might
that's be a division.
Number one, that's division, and that's when I bust out the calculator.
But it might be division.
I have trouble with long division. But no, still long division. That's not algebra.
It is algebra.
Anyway,
you're trying to sit up there and do an equation.
Algebra is higher mathematics.
Division is part of mathematics.
Batman, we're talking to a mathematician. Clearly, we're talking to someone who actually enjoyed math class, unlike normal people.
Hey, Jenson.
I couldn't do math. I legitimately.
Hold on, Sam. Jenson, you're intelligent.
Rumor has it.
Would you say that you use algebra when you go into a shop to do your daily your weekly shop?
Generally, no. I base it on, I know how much I've got to spend, and I take off the prices that I see on the sides from that base number. But funny enough, you're all correct in this. it can be used as algebra, or it can be used in basic mathematics. It actually really depends on how the brain works. I look at it one way, whereas Nomad looks at it another way, but equally we both come to the same result. And technically, all that matters is we come to an accurate result. How we get there is literally the bonus,
Yeah,
in my opinion.
So we do it the normal way. He's got to show off.
pretty much. Yeah.
That's
It's-
right.
But
God,
anyway.
I just had this impression of Nomad going to his local supermarket, doing his grocery shopping, and he's pushing a
And
whiteboard.
he's got like a fucking.
a
He's got
whiteboard.
like a fucking either a whiteboard or one of those fucking grid fucking notebook things that he's just
Yeah,
doing like
and
fucking
he's
trigonometry on.
Yeah.
I'm going to enjoy this because Sam's going to go mental. You boomers, we got these things now called mobile phones. You don't need all this. You can just do it on the mobile phone.
But that's
man.
not showing off well enough.
Bro, that's how I calculate a tip. I say fuck it. Okay.
Yeah,
And
you guys.
I know
and your
that's not a
fucking
thing. I
tip.
know that's not a thing
Yeah,
over there.
yeah. That's
And
because
trust
we
me,
actually
I
pay people
sincerely
full
do
wage.
wish that we did not have the tipping culture. I sincerely do wish,
Well,
because the tipping culture is fucking stupid.
You wouldn't have a typical culture if you actually paid your staff
No,
an actual
no.
full wage.
I actually know the
hold.
history of this. I actually know the
Hold.
history. Okay.
Hold, all of you, hold. I'll tell you what I consider one of the major problems with the American system. Okay, I realise that the Americans are going to disagree with me, but in my opinion, one of the major things that actually screws it all over is your tax system. At the end result, you get the price.
I will
and
actually agree.
Then you add tax. We don't. We just have that automatically added as part of the price. If you go in, and
I
buy a
agree.
can of- if you buy a
Seriously.
can of beans, you don't buy a can of beans. And I'm just spouting random numbers here, just so we're clear. 50 cents and tax. You go in and you pay 62 cents. Period. We have already basically we have it easier for that, which is why it confuses me when it's like, because I've noticed when you actually buying things online, it gives a price. You think, oh, okay, that seems reasonable, and then they add tax, and suddenly you realise, oh, that was a bit more than I was expecting.
Yeah, I know people.
Yeah, no, Jenson, I actually 100% agree with you.
I know people who
I
used to go.
agree.
I know people who used to go to Florida regularly for holidays.
Yep.
They love going to Florida for holidays. They hate going to the shops.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
Oh, because here you want to know something even more fucked. You want to know something even more fucked?
Go on.
One of the reasons why the American, when it comes to taxes, when it comes to everyday purchases and shit like that, there are multiple different bodies that actually determine that tax. That's why you can't just add it on. Okay? Because you have the state tax, you have the county tax, you have the city tax.
You got the street gang tax.
Oh no, it gets better. And then here's a real kicker, because I've actually had this question a couple times as to why not all American stores take all credit cards. Well, here's the thing. It's because to have that machine for the convenience of not having to carry cash, I shit you not, the credit card companies will actually charge the stores a certain percentage of every single transaction. That's why American Express doesn't get accepted in most places, because they
credit cards do that the world over.
Yeah, I can tell you why. It's because there's also an additional charge on when it comes to actually changing cash into
administrative charge.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, which is why I will never have a credit card thrown at me.
I wouldn't touch credit cards. I mean, I've got a debit card. That's the best I'm doing.
Well, here's the thing, though.
Credit cards are too much temptation.
Well, here's the thing, though. You can't actually. It is actually very difficult for you to build credit in the United States without a credit card.
Yes, you've got to have a credit rating, which means the better your credit rating, you've been in debt.
Well, but what do you need a credit rating for is basically lending.
Yeah.
For large.
Well, no, because it can actually control whether you get certain jobs. It can control.
It can.
Not over here.
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
no.
yeah.
No,
There are
not over
jobs
there.
that there are a number of things that happen as that goes. But Ms. Murder is right about several things. First of all, when it comes to taxes in stores, okay, you have multiple different entities that are doing the taxing. For example, you use the term Jenson
Yep.
in the United States,
Yeah.
okay, but the United States government doesn't have a sales tax.
I know you've got 50 countries all pretending to be one country.
Well,
I
it's not
understand the
just
concept.
it's not, but it's not just, once again, it's not just the states, because there
The
are some
states.
states that do not have sales tax.
Mm-hmm.
Like Louisiana.
I don't know if Louisiana does. I do know that
Louisiana in certain parts doesn't. I think it depends on the area. I know Florida is very lenient on their sales tax in
they
certain
might have a
areas.
low sales tax, but they do have a sales tax. New Hampshire did not for the longest time have a sales tax.
Yeah, they just recently
Um, and
started that.
so these are all reasons why when you go, quote unquote, into a store, all right, and of course there's certain things that, depending upon the state,
Are taxed higher than other things.
well, or are exempt. For example, in the state that I live in here in Arizona, all food items, with the exception of prepared items, for example, in restaurants and so forth, all right, have
Mm-hmm.
no sales tax. So if you go to a grocery
Mm-hmm.
store and pick up a bag of chips, there's
Yeah.
no tax applied to
I take
Okay.
you on about either oven chips or microchips there.
Well, it doesn't matter.
No, he's talking Chris.
All right. Or if you go back and
But then it's not just the state's tax though. You also have to deal with the city that you're in, the county that you're in.
Yes.
I know I'm going to get
Oddly
shoved
enough,
at
from what I've
this.
heard, I think your counties are actually smaller than ours, aren't they?
Our county.
Yeah,
Some.
you can have one city in 2 or 3 counties.
Yeah, but that's just the way the city grew up more than anything else.
Yes and no. You see, the thing is as the city expands, it can expand into other counties. But generally, I'm actually not 100% sure of how the counties actually get determined. That's a little lost on me.
I have heard.
I think I tried looking it up once.
Mm-hmm.
You heard what, Batman?
I have heard in the States, counties grow and change because money changes hands, usually under a table.
No. The counties were an offshoot of different divisions that were done when the state became as part of the nation. For example, in the Nebraska territory, in order to specify where in the Nebraska territory certain people had jurisdictions over for patrolling and so forth, they would sit up there and break it up with these different, quote unquote, county, these lines that then become counties. All right. Other ones came back with local types of parishes. For example, in Louisiana, everything's done off of a parish type of an environment where the parish, all right, determined whether or not it what that jurisdiction was going to be from a county perspective, and they eventually became counties. All right, so all
Both
those different
ideas we
states.
stole from England.
So
Just
in the
pointing.
United States, you have counties. I can guarantee you, some of our counties in certain states are probably larger than anything you've ever seen. Right.
I actually can name one of them that I know for a fact is actually larger than most of the UK. Just for size. Just because of how far it spans. In Illinois, there is what is called Cook County, or as I like to call it, Crook County.
Mm-hmm.
That pretty much spans the entirety of Chicago, which actually goes into a completely different state, by the way.
Okay.
And it stretches all over Chicago, all the way about 45-minute to a half an hour south, all the way to where I used to live, which was Midlothian, Illinois, which is a good 30 minutes away from the actual city. And it spanned it far, far further than that. Like, it covered multiple fucking school districts. It covered multiple fucking cities. Most of which were at least a 20-minute to a half an hour drive from my town.
Yeah,
The county is fucking huge.
The United Kingdom is 1.7 times bigger than Illinois.
I'm just saying, city-wise, it is. I wasn't saying it was bigger than the entirety of the UK. It's just a good chunk of it. It is a pretty fucking. It's one of the bigger counties. It is pretty fucking massive.
The Isle, the British Island, right? The main British Island is about the size of the state of Nebraska. No, Nebraska.
I thought it was actually about the size of Alabama.
Oh yeah, and
Alabama, and Nebraska.
Just for another, for instance, London is almost twice as big as New York.
Oh, that's definitely true.
And yet somehow it's a walkable city.
What, London?
I'm sorry.
London, a walkable, what is considered a walkable city. You can actually walk around London and actually, get to places without it being a fucking nightmare to get to.
As the Londoner here, I would actually like to point out that one may well be the concept. I'm not disagreeing with you there, dear. That is at best entertaining. You know how there's this whole thing about 20-mile-an-hour zones and how people are saying, oh my God, that's too slow. We can't get to 20 miles an hour in London. Get sensible.
I'm saying
fast areas.
No, I'm not saying driving. I'm saying if one wanted to walk from one location in the city to the other, it is possible.
Oh yeah, no.
The distance between the locations.
Yes, I think she's looking at this by the raven, not by the wolf. So no, she's correct. You could theoretically walk from the very edge of the southern part of London to the very edge of the northern part of London in one day without this being a problem. The problem you've got is the actual geography of it makes it an impossibility.
Population of it.
If you want to come in, Neil, feel free.
Yeah, and the population of it as well.
Now,
I'm not saying it'd be a smart idea.
All right. Back to the original.
Yeah.
All right. So when you have an environment like the school system that's failing because absolutely nobody is able to do math, how are you going to fix that? You're not going to fix. There's no way the school system, all right, or the people in the schools, all right, are going to be able to get the parents and the surrounding negative culture around them, all right, to change.
Yeah.
They're going to have to sit up there and try and work within the cultural environment that they exist within. And my point of contention here is that in those environments, the only method left to the school system that has any chance of working, all right, is to go back to a type of close to military style as far as from a disciplined environment within those schools. And it will maximize the learning of the students. Now, is this student going to learn versus that student going to learn or how that's going to work? That isn't what you're looking for.
Of the problems, we're getting it over here as well with schools, is the sizes of the classes are getting too big for any one teacher to cope
Exactly.
Or to deliver a decent education. You need to lower
that
the
and
class sizes.
Yeah, well, that as well. And on top of that, with at least with the American school system, and this was always a problem with me, is that even it doesn't matter how heavy you discipline them, if the child is not comprehending,
It doesn't matter.
they're not
You're
going
focused
to
on the
learn it.
individual child, though.
No.
That's the problem. You're trying to say
But I'm
this
actually
child
speaking
it
on a
won't work
mass.
with. Okay, I'm not worried about this specific child or any specific individual child. If you get down into the weeds and are always worried about that individual child and what it's going to take for that individual child, all right, you are going to spend your resources, all right, and waste them when you have an entire class, you have in a school, an entire 8th grade class unable, all right, or not capable of passing 8th grade math test. No one, the entire class, the entire 8th grade, not one person was able to pass an
Where
8th
they
grade
are
level
they?
math.
Well, Nomad, let's
I
let's
couldn't.
let's
I'm
be fair
30.
here.
I probably couldn't pass an 8th grade level math.
Yes, you could. Modern 8th
I
grade.
highly
Modern
doubt it.
8th grade maths, yeah, you definitely could.
Oh, Common Core. Fuck Common Core.
Hold
Fuck
on.
that.
What I was about to say, Nomad, you've got to agree here. Most American kids who are going to college now, because we're talking about America, so I'm picking on American kids, yes, who are going to college now, couldn't have passed the 8th grade that you passed.
Yeah, I mean the curriculum is vastly different now. What I was trying to explain earlier is what I remember from school. You know, the things that I never learned that I actually had my father actually taught me, or things that I had to learn as an adult. I'm still learning how to budget shit.
Sam, put it this
Okay.
way: if we went into a maths class, like say 78, when calculators were cheap and affordable and useful. If we went to a maths class and our teacher saw a calculator on the desk, he would just walk over, pick the calculator up, put it in his desk drawer until the lesson was over. We were not allowed calculators.
Oh no, my class, my school didn't allow calculators either. But yet it was still on the school supplies. We never got to use them, but they were on the school supplies. $175 for a fucking calculator. That was fucking retarded.
They're only like $5.99 over here.
Yeah.
Oh no, we had to get these very specific.
Calculator. I'm trying to point out that we got going back to the original thing. Look, one of the problems that has happened within many of our school systems, and there is no such thing as a U.S. school system because every school system across the country is completely different. And Ms. Murder mentioned that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But if you take a look in an area that is failing, all right, and if a school has students where every one of the students is failing, it is a cop out for the teachers to say, well, it's just an at-risk group of people and we just can't fix that. Well, then why are you an educator? What are you doing as an educator?
You're also putting a lot on those teachers. Well, no, you're also putting a shit ton on those teachers, okay?
I am putting something on the teachers because
but here's
they
the thing.
are absolutely
One person,
in control of that
no, they're not.
environment. Yes, no.
No, they are fucking not. No,
Look,
they are not. I can tell you this.
Let me tell you something, Ms. Murder. If these teachers can go ahead and go, I'm going to get my kids ready to go on strike, which these teachers did, okay, and sit up there and did the whole Red for Ed thing saying we need more money, all right, to sit up there and to be teachers and educators, if you're going to come back and tell me that they can go on strike for that, but they have no ability to affect that school or affect the discipline that goes on in that school or run that school environment, then by God, they don't need to be teachers. The problem is the teachers have an attitude of, this is the way I will teach. It's the only way I will teach. All right. And I've learned all this wherever they get it from. Lovey-dovey, lackadaisical. Oh, this is how you educate. We're going to throw away all what was done in the past that actually worked for these types of students, such as rote education in math, and to teach them multiplication tables and say, okay, we're going to throw all that because we got all this new age math BS crap. And then to sit up there and watch them go on strike saying, I'm also, woe is me, I'm underpaid, and you're going to try and tell me, oh, wait a minute, they can't control that environment in their schools, then they shouldn't be in
Here's the thing. Well, here's the thing. You think that they're in charge of the curriculum. They're not. They have a set curriculum that they have to follow that varies from state to state.
No.
Now, I can't speak for other states. I can only speak for Illinois, because that's where I went to school.
Okay.
And I actually tried to become a teacher at a certain point.
I
didn't
state requirements.
Pursue that.
I agree.
There are state requirements, but here's the thing. They can say, hey, I want to teach this. However, please explain to me why a teacher who was studying to teach history is now teaching a goddamn math class. Because that happened in my school multiple times.
I can tell you how that happened. Okay? And that goes right back to the same problem I've been bitching about. That teacher has a degree in education, and therefore they are certified and approved to teach, even if they don't understand the subject.
Here's another one for you on that subject. At one point, because I had a discussion once, because one of our PE teachers was taking us for history once, because our history teacher called in sick. Nobody else could take his place. PE teacher, sir, why are you taking history? You're a PE teacher. Yes, he said. Yes, and all my qualification is in physical education, but most teachers have to have a small percentage of education in the other subjects. So at a pinch, we can fill in.
Okay,
I think that's gone by the wayside.
It wasn't a situation of filling in. It was this teacher was taken from their normal class and forced to teach this other class that they really didn't have a firm understanding of.
Right, my turn. You realise it's going to be so much easier once all the kids actually just plug into the internet straight through the jack in the back of their head, and the information is downloaded straight to them. You don't have to worry about
then they'll all be slaves of Shirati.
Do you really think that that's not going to happen? All jokes aside now, okay? I realise we could sit here and make all the very silly jokes. Can we assume we got past that for a sec and actually go on to serious? You realise that this is going to be how it is, as proved during the COVID
technology for brain computer interfaces is progressing apace.
Of course it is. All they need to do is work out the neuroconnective gel. That's a major problem.
The problem with most students, right, and this is most students now, not just at risk or anything else, is
not every student has access to that.
Well, no, I'm not worried about that aspect of it. What I'm in the case that you're talking about there, sure, simple things like math, right, different languages even. Yes, will be then downloadable. You know what won't still be loadable though? Socialization skills.
What?
I was about to bring that up too.
Hold on. What skills? I missed that.
Socialization.
Skills.
The ability to sit up there and say, "Okay, I'm going to live in a society."
That's one of the reasons. That's one of the big reasons why we have schools.
Well, yeah. I've actually had this argument quite a few times, the difference between a private school and a public school. I have found 9 times out of 10 that the students that went only to private schools, you put them in a situation where they are not surrounded by their economic peers, their exact demographic, they will flounder and struggle hardcore. They don't know how to deal. They can't interact.
Your private schools are clearly different from ours, and we call them public schools over here.
Math is racist.
Because
I'll agree. Math is fucking racist. I hate math.
There were fee-paid. There were fee-paid boarding schools open to the public who could afford to pay, so they were called public schools, right?
Yep.
I know that's confusing to Americans. It would be to me if I lived in America, but that's besides the point. I've known a few kids who've come from those types of schools, and they're very good at interacting socially.
I've
Yeah,
I
got
think Jenson will agree with that because he'll have
Yeah.
met a few in the army.
yeah.
I've got one of my best mates is one.
It
Yeah,
depends on the
but-
it depends on the private school that they went to.
Yeah.
Not over here. It doesn't. They're all roughly the same. It's a high standard of education across the fucking board, isn't it, Jensen?
Yes, but I actually can see what Nomad is saying. Think of the difference, Batman. I mean, you've probably got private schools up your way. Can you imagine if a kid who went to Eton went to one of your lot, he'd still be considered, to say the least, the outlier
Oh yeah,
amongst your
Uh,
guys? And it's not just
we've-
the fact he's a southern
we've-
buffet.
we've had kids come from from private schools in the south up here when I was at comprehensive school. Yeah, they're the outliers for a week,
Fair.
and then they fit in.
Yeah.
They know how to find the avenues to fit in. It's one of the
Well,
things.
that's the thing. I'm not talking about the students who actually, while they're still developing, while they're still able to be socialized. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking from the time they started school at about 5 years old around. And in the United States, that's generally when they start, 5 years old.
Right.
To the time that they are 18 going into college. They have been through nothing but private school in a very specific area. Now, private schools over here are stupid fucking expensive, okay? They are absolutely holy fuck expensive, okay?
Sam, the average private school student in the States, his family couldn't put him through the average private school in the UK.
I know. I am aware. Because, again,
I
but then
think the
again,
difference is, like you said, and I've seen it. Those private schools in the States, they're isolated from other from places, aren't they? They're out in the boonies somewhere.
No.
No.
It depends.
No.
It depends. There's a lot. There's a large variance in
Yeah,
private schools.
over here they tend to be.
Neil made a comment. He said that the private schools are overly focused on sending kids to Ivy League schools. That isn't that's not my experience of the private schools. All right. As far as the difference in them, and they vary dramatically. All right. There are different types of private schools. There's different styles of private schools. For example, we still have military
academies.
prep academies. Okay.
Yeah. The
That
Jürgen Führer School.
have what?
The Jürgen Führer School.
No, we're not. We don't have the we don't have that one. No. Pretty much. All right. So they're all
The
a bit
young
different.
I don't
pioneers
know.
you
I don't know. I've met some students from certain private schools. I might make that argument, specifically Westboro
Right.
Baptist.
No, matter the way things are going, you'll be having the young pioneers over there next.
I'm not saying that there might not be things like that. There are a lot of private schools that are religious oriented. Some more religious oriented than others. And the most of the real heavy religious organized private schools actually aren't trying to get kids into Ivy League schools or colleges, but seminaries. All right, so they're a seminary pipeline. We really have a very large variance, and once again, across the different states, also have very different things. But back to my original point, right, which goes back to if you have a failing school, okay,
Yes.
you can't. The first people you've got to look at has to be the teachers
Teaching staff.
and the people who are running the school.
Yeah.
If I may, I would actually modify what you're saying literally by reversing it. I would have the admins looked at first, then the teaching staff at the end of the day. And I'm going to kind of defend the teachers in the broadest possible sense. they're actually only teaching what the admins actually allow them to teach. So you need to
Exactly.
actually adjust the admins,
Okay,
then
the
the teaching staff. But
school
I completely agree.
staff then. The
No,
entire
that's fine.
school staff is
That's why
No,
fake.
I
school
said
staff is janitorial,
that's
No, that's
why I
office
everybody
workers.
in the school that's an adult running that school. And you can say that it's the janitorial group too. Yeah, they're part of it, all
that's
right?
why I
But it's
said
the
the
entire
teaching
staff.
staff. That's why I said the teaching staff, because that includes the administrators. It doesn't include the janitors. The only interaction the school janitor has with the kids is, "Get out of here! I'm cleaning."
Pretty much, yeah.
To be perfectly honest, my school actually respected our school janitor way more than we respected a lot of our our
Same,
principal or vice principals.
same here. The head janitor at our school, or caretaker as we call them, if you upset him, he was a mean shot with a scrubbing brush.
Yeah.
Oh no, with ours was a woman. Everyone in that high school called her grandma.
Oh.
Everybody called her grandma. Do not ask me what her actual name was, because I have no clue. I never heard that woman's real name.
We called our head caretaker Rommel, because if you got on the wrong side of him, you'd feel like you'd been a British soldier in El Alamein.
But no, but here's one other thing that I personally have a grievance with.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And something I think that would actually really fucking help with the education system, especially with high risk. Not every kid needs to go to college. Not every child wants to go to college. But what got pushed all through the 90s and 2000s? You got to go to college. You got to go to college. You got to go to college. Go to college to get a good job. Because you don't want to be the fucking garbage man, failing to tell us that the garbage man had a fucking pension that was going to bankrupt the goddamn city, and they made more than all the teachers combined.
And that's why they didn't want them becoming the garbage man, as you put it, because it would screw the city 6 ways from Sundays.
But that's the thing now. But now we have such a shortage of trade workers and of actual physical laborers. It's fucking scary. Do you have any idea how many people are looking for welders to the point where they're offering a benefit of, we will pay for you to go to welding school?
Doesn't surprise.
Like, legitimately. And MC, I think you'll agree, the trades are hurting big time. Or Nomad MC, whatever. I think he would agree.
Yeah, he's got
because
his Nomad.
I wish I had been given. Personally, I kind of regret going to college. I'm in a shit ton of debt now because of it.
That's one of the reasons why they want you to go.
That is a problem. And she's not wrong about there was a social push, and it was a social push.
Yeah.
All right. That people were looking down on trade work. Now, once again, you saw some areas that were worse than others, but overall, there was a shift away from manufacturing in the United States. It's one of the reasons why our manufacturing base is so chaotic right now. One of the problems with our manufacturing base that we have in the United States is there's a huge reliance right now upon automation that isn't as efficient, all right, as it would if you had workers within that same system. There is stuff that's being over roboticized, for lack of a better term.
No, I agree. But good news, I'm actually getting another job in kind of a manufacturing production plant. And I have to say already, the benefits are fucking insanely great. Like,
which is good.
Like 4th of July, These motherfuckers get an entire week off, paid.
Nice.
Neil,
Just
I would
so-
agree with
just
that.
so-
Mike Rowe did realign people's attitudes back the way they needed to be. All right, more than anything else. All right, that became a social, became highly conscious within the social environment that we live within. Is Mike Rowe. Now, I think you guys have heard of him, right? Mike
I was
Rowe.
about to say, just a question: who is Mike Rowe?
He's the guy who did the basic narration on like the Deadliest Catch and so forth.
Oh, right. Okay. Cool.
He's
Gotcha.
also the guy.
Oh yeah, that dude.
He's also the guy that did Cash Cab,
Oh, God. Okay.
right? And several other things. But one of the things that he did is he also did a show about dirty jobs
Okay.
and what it takes for people to get in there and do some of the dirtiest, rottenest jobs that as people.
But how
consider.
much they are making though, too.
Well, but to go in there and say, look, getting your hands dirty. There's nothing wrong with getting your hands dirty. There's nothing wrong with going out there and getting in the
Working
muck
a physical
and stuff.
job.
All right, there are
Mhm.
people in this country, all right, that for whatever reason have this attitude toward simple things like McDonald's. Right, you're a
Mhm.
McDonald's worker. Believe it or not,
You're a McDonald's worker. You shouldn't be able to have a living wage. It's like, okay, then how am I
that's a
supposed to
separate
buy a
issue.
house?
The McDonald's workers, the vast majority of McDonald's workers don't need a living wage because it should be an entry level wage. But I'm not going to get into that argument.
The
right
vast
now.
majority of McDonald's workers usually have two, possibly even three jobs.
Well, some of them do, and
That
some
is
of them
true.
don't. It once again, it depends upon. It also depends upon a lot of different aspects of where the McDonald's is, blah blah blah. All right, but there are people that go, I will never work in a McDonald's because that's beneath me. There should never be a job that's beneath you.
Yeah.
Now, for those
Unless it's actually working in the sewers, then it is literally beneath you.
well, I mean,
Good comment.
It's not beneath you means that you're not doing it.
I
Right?
know. I was making a joke.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, but if you're in the sewer, then it's not beneath you because you're in the sewer, right?
Mm.
Just pointing this out.
I know.
There's
I
a
was
flaw
saying
in that statement.
location-wise. I was making a fucking joke. Get over it.
She was
I
very
realize.
poor one, but she was making one.
Trust me, Batman knows about poor jokes.
Yes, I
is
listen
definitely
to
the
Jenson's all the
expert, yeah.
time.
I know.
All right, but the thing is, but my statement with that was like I was trying to say. If you're going to go back to the school system when the school system is failing, you got to sit up there and you cannot sit up there and make excuses for the teachers not fixing the work environment.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole purpose of their damn union.
Yeah.
It's the whole purpose of every union.
Yeah.
Okay. If you've got a union and you're a unionized worker and you're not trying to fix the work environment, but you're busy bitching about your pay, well, then I have no use for you. And there should be no use for that union, in my opinion.
There is another reason for unions as well. That's to facilitate an equitable medium between the workforce and the management.
Yeah.
Well, the problem with doing that in the school system is they're government workers with other government workers who themselves don't generate revenue.
Yeah.
Right, and so that becomes another issue. Anyway, off to the next thing. Jenson, you had something you wanted to talk about, correct?
Oh, it's based on the fact that we've just gone through a lot of intellectual conversations. This is a minor thing, but Batman being here, it's kind of useful as well. Basically, we're all nerds. Did you know that they are yet again trying to push Stargate to coming back?
Yep.
All right, he always. Yeah, no, this is a thing about 9 days ago. This video came out. I was watching, and apparently, sorry,
General Carter.
No, they might not be getting a lot of the people back now. Apparently, and they're not actually even touching Stargate Universe, which actually really depresses me because I loved that show.
It was good.
So dark. That's why I liked it.
It was the Stargate SG-1 and Stargate Atlantis. They were the best of the best. Stargate
Yeah.
Universe, they were the other
No.
guys.
Yeah.
okay, then I have to
They
kind
weren't
of
the
agree
fuck
with
ups. No,
Jensen here.
hold on. They weren't the fuck ups. They were just the other guys.
Norms. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Stargate universe had the first of all, the premise of Stargate universe I thought was very, very good. The 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 primary anti-hero on the show,
Mm-hmm.
the setup for him was very good. Right?
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought that was very, very well done.
Oh, what
The
are they calling it then?
hero, the
Carlisle.
guy who ends up being the hero
Huh?
in the end, who
The
was
fat
just
kid,
supposed
yeah.
to be this, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
exactly the fat kid.
Yeah.
That was
Have you
poorly done.
seen him? By the way, have you seen what he looks like nowadays?
Well, he
He'd
wasn't
have
the
to
fat.
double his size just to get back to being who he was.
He wasn't the fat. By the end of Stargate Universe, he wasn't a fat kid anymore, though.
Yeah,
True.
no, that's true, but the usage there was the way they developed his character. I thought was poor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, could have been done better. Right, some of the storylines were obviously less than ideal. Okay,
Every rule.
but overall, the premise I thought was very good. Okay,
Yeah.
If they were going to do something along those lines, and if they're trying to restart the Stargate universe, I don't have as much of a problem with it as long as they continue continuity. Now, if they're trying to restart it or reboot it,
Yep.
none of these reboots in any of the genres have I liked.
That's fair.
All right, I haven't liked the
What?
reboot that they did with Star Wars. I haven't liked the reboot they did with Star Trek. The multiple
Nobody
reboots
liked the
they did with Star
reboot
Trek.
they did with Star Trek.
Right, I have not liked the reboots they've attempted to do with the various different Marvel and DC universes either. All right,
Mm-hmm.
that's not saying that there weren't shows or episodes, depending upon how you want to look at it, that weren't okay. But this retconning that they've tried to do to fit it within some kind of new social dynamic that we currently live within, I think is where a lot of this stuff fails and a lot of it falls down. So when you tell me that they're going to restart a new Stargate, there's two.
I
I
don't
mean,
think
for
they're
crying out loud,
restarting it.
you have the entire universe to go on as long as you
Don't
you
think
don't
they're
retcon it.
restarting it. They're continuing it.
Then I don't have.
Yes, kind of. As far as I can see, sorry to interrupt you, Nomad, but as far as I can see, what they're doing is the major old characters are going to be background characters because let's be honest, most of them, to put it bluntly,
They're
are
over the
heading
hill.
towards or have already achieved pension age. So it's a reboot, given the fact that they're probably going to have to bring in new people to be the primary characters. But the older characters are going to background it until we've transitioned from what we know to the new lot.
Yeah,
As
the only
it's my
problem that I
opinion, though.
have, the only problem I have with that,
Yeah.
and I do have a problem with it, but is
Oh, yeah,
within the Stargate universe, the reality is technology should have exploded.
absolutely.
Okay,
In the Stargate universe, yes, everyday technology should be far in advance of what it is here.
right.
Yeah.
And so, if you try to keep the the Earth from being massively technologically advanced, I think it's a mistake.
Yeah. In fact, technically, you could look at it that with Stargate, and I'm going to call the term universe, even though they add that as a series, but the Stargate universe should actually be a downside closer to the Star Trek universe, technology-wise, just because of the shit we should be receiving. After all, humanity, air quotes, took its place as the fifth race in that thing.
Yes.
So,
Yes,
Or
we should be.
was destined to anyway.
We were the at that point. What you have to have is the Earth has to be exploring and has to be establishing colonies, human colonies on other planets.
yeah.
Okay.
Have you guys actually seen the trailer for the new Stargate?
I have
No.
not.
Concept? Okay. It starts off with basically like a drone flying over a semi-cartoonized version of San Francisco. Then it sinks into the bay, and below it you can see a Stargate, which then activates under the water. Now, quite what that actually references, I don't know as of yet.
That's kind of silly because anybody on the other side of that Stargate's going to get smacked in the face with tons of water, literally.
Yeah, I know, but makes for an interesting concept, I feel, because you're saying that they're going to get smacked in the face by tons of water. What if it actually goes to an aquatic world? Let's be honest, if you open a Stargate under the sea to another point under the sea, the difference is not really that much.
Well, it depends.
Depends.
On the pressure.
True.
Yeah, pressure could be different. The content of the water, what kind of life is in the water.
This is fair. But all I'm going to say is kaiju and leave that there. Okay?
Well,
that could just be me wanting. Go on.
The problem with the way they do the Stargate is, a Stargate would have to envelop, all right, the group. The idea that you touch a film, well, wait a minute here, that film is already in contact with things like air.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in order for a field like that to work from a physics perspective, it would have to envelop. It would have to be, you put them on a thing. It'd be more like what we would consider a teleportation platform, right? And then it would just suck them over there. They would envelop them, and then they would
You've actually got to physically step through the Stargate. That means there's got to be pressure pushing in on the event, the wormhole event horizon.
Well, it means that the wormhole event horizon has to be pushing back.
Yeah, air isn't giving enough pressure to do that. Water would.
Patrick Stewart.
Both of you, I'm just sending you the link to the thing I saw about it in your DMs.
Okay? Well, yeah, check your DMs as well.
But I saw the kitty, don't you worry.
Good.
He is adorable.
Yes, he is now Bagpuss.
There. Since Jenson.
No, hold on.
More interested in the kitties.
Miss Murder there is saying, all I'm going to say for Star Trek is Patrick Stewart was sexy.
Yeah.
Even as a straight guy, I'm gonna exit out.
When you got a choice between Patrick Stewart and Jonathan Frakes, Stewart's better. Okay,
I've got a choice between Patrick Stewart and Jonathan Frakes. I'm a straight guy, so I'm going to be celibate.
No, I totally understand. But the point is, if you were that, all right, as we're going to go Star Trek conversation, all right, Batman, you have a choice. You can only have one. Who do you pick as captain for your ship? Do you pick Riker or do you pick Picard?
Oh, Picard.
You don't get a choice against this.
I retire.
No, not an option. And by the way, in case you're thinking I take a phaser and shoot myself, the phaser fails. You have to make this decision. No choice, no escape. Who do you pick, Riker or Picard?
Oh, in that case, I would say Riker. Be perfectly honest.
Explain
Picard is an archaeologist and a diplomat.
Yes.
Riker is a career officer. There's a huge difference.
Okay, pause. Nomad, your opinion, please.
No, you're gonna pick Picard.
Okay, reason?
It's far more flexible.
Okay.
All right. And when you're dealing with when you're dealing with a situation where you have a ship on its own, and you have to have the ability of maintaining discipline and also being able to be flexible with what you see within the in universe that they're roaming within, Picard is the obvious choice. All right.
I would say more
the
Riker.
Inflexibility of if you take a look at some of the nonsense, all right, that Riker gets himself into, right? Mm-hmm. For example, the episode where
hold on, He gets himself in that nonsense because he can afford to, because he's not captain. And by the way, Mitch is in the chat. Do you want him in here?
If he wants to come in, he's more than welcome.
Hear that, Mitch? You can come in if you want.
Right.
As long as you understand, we are currently in nerd chat, so be prepared.
Right. But
Mitch is a Star Trekker.
The thing is when you're talking about Riker and you're saying that he could afford to do that because he wasn't in command. How many different away teams? No. How many different away teams was he basically in command of the away team, and all sorts of things happened to his away team? And I'm sorry, but that's part of his responsibility to maintain.
That's unfair because Picard was never in charge. Was very rarely in charge of an away team. How many times was Picard in charge of the Enterprise and things got fucked up? What, every episode? Thank you.
It wasn't every episode.
It was every fucking episode.
No, it was not every episode.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, it was just one of those curiosities, and to explain, I would, given the situation, I would actually pick Picard overall. But no, I'll come to yours in a moment, mate. But in the situation where you had the alternate universe where the Federation was at war as continue, I would actually pick Riker because I consider him the more warrior diplomat, whereas Picard is an explorer diplomat, in my opinion.
No, he wasn't an explorer. That's the thing about the Next Generation. Mm-hmm. They went where everybody had been before.
Yeah, I know, but
he wasn't an explorer at all. I mean, if they were literally going where no man had been before, Riker would be your man.
But that's because warriors are actually some of the best things to send in first.
Yeah. But here's a question for you then. Mm-hmm. Did you ever see the 2-part with where Jellicoe took over the Enterprise?
Yes.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yes.
Yeah, I think he was a better captain than Picard.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, actually, I agree with Batman in this.
He actually stopped Deanna Troi acting like the spoiled princess she normally did. Hello, Mitch.
Hello, mate. Before we continue, Matt, go and stand in the corner and punish yourself by whipping yourself. How dare you suggest Troy should be in charge?
That's because Matt is actually a Romulan spy.
That explains a few things. Okay.
The one time she was in charge of the episode she was in charge of, she never made a decision.
Yeah, she did. She decided she decided to let O'Brien tell her what to do.
Fair point. Anyway.
Well, hey, dude, soon afterwards, she crashed the damn ship.
Yeah.
This is a fair statement. I can't really disagree with you there.
Well, they were waiting for a new one anyway. That's why they let her drive.
Oh, that's true.
Don't. Come on. Let's not get sexist. Play nice, people.
Actually, I'm not getting sexist. I'm blaming her species.
All right. Well, let's let Mitch give his reasoning and his.
Yes, I'm curious as to why you think Riker is the better choice, sir.
Picard was not a member of his own crew. That's why. He purposely kept himself at such a distance, not the normal distance that a commander might, but he went the extra 10 feet as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's a bit exaggerated. I think he was fine with the crew, except for the fact that he where he really showed his differences was his disagreement with the idea of having children and quote unquote families that weren't technically part of his crew on the ship.
No, Mitch is actually right, because if you look at the original series, Kirk, yes, he's got the separation of being in command, right? But he still interacts with the crew, engages with the crew. He's actually got not so much friends, I would say, but he's got people he's on good terms with in the crew. He plays chess with the crew.
Yeah.
Picard does not interact with the crew apart from as their captain.
Okay. Yeah, back in a sec, guys.
But that's normal. That's normal military behavior, believe it or not.
To a certain extent, yes, but
No,
yeah,
you would never
Starfleet.
see,
Hold
for example,
on.
when the crew.
Starfleet is not a normal military
Well, I understand that,
organization.
but when you're dealing with this kind of a situation, for example, in the United States military, you would never see the commander, all right,
How often
playing
does the United
poker,
States? How often?
with the
Hold on.
rest of the crew.
How
You
often
wouldn't
does
see
the
it.
United States? How often does the United States military go on 5-year exploration
I'm
missions?
just giving
Where
you an example of how these things
yeah, but how
go
often does the
about.
United States military go off on 5-year missions of
In
exploration
a
into
in a
uncharted areas?
5 year exploration type of environment with the number of people. Okay, this is not a small number of people when you talk about his crew.
Kirk's crew is about 200, I believe.
Kirk's crew is
430.
yeah.
Thank you.
Kirk's crew is 230. Picard's crew
430.
is close to 1,000.
Yeah, but Picard's, well, you just established Picard was not an explorer. He never explored anything.
We're not arguing that point. But back to I'm sorry, Mitch. We never did let you finish. We're getting sidetracked.
Well, that's fine.
So
That's
really.
that's the biggest piece of my argument against Picard anyway. Look, Riker as a captain, because he was so personable, he wouldn't just stand up for the crew. He let the crew know that if the shit hits the fan, he's going to stand up for them. Picard, on the other hand, would wait for shit to hit the fan before letting them know.
And then he'd follow the rules. He wouldn't look for a way
Generally.
around the rule. He wouldn't look for a way around the rules.
Generally speaking, no,
yeah.
he wouldn't. But he has. To be fair, he has. But only when it's a plot convenience.
Yeah.
And I'm basically calling out the Prime Directive on that score, but that's another.
Oh God, yeah.
That's kind of a different discussion.
The reinterpretation of the Prime Directive from
Prime Directive
the
in the next generation
to this universe was quite a bit
Mhm.
different.
Prime Generation and the next generation onwards, were Prime Directive rather, was the people who were writing the episodes did not understand the original Prime Directive.
I agree.
Yeah, don't interfere. It doesn't mean stand by and watch an entire civilization die.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, I would like to modify my original question then. I would like to open it.
Put Wesley in charge. Are you out of your freaking mind? Matt, hold
on. Before you go on, Jenson, can we take Matt, put him in the transporter room, right? Put the coordinates into deep space and have a wide dispersal beam.
I'm sorry, but Matt brings up a good point in the Picard-Riker debate.
Go on.
By putting Wesley in, with that comment about putting Wesley in charge, he brings up something valid.
Yeah.
Picard is openly involved in a kind of nepotism there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because if Wesley had been anyone else, he would never have been made an acting ensign.
Nope.
Yep. He was just
if the Traveler had come and said, "Hey, here's Biff Scrugbottom," and instead of, "Hey, here's Wesley Crusher," Biff Scrugbottom would be fucked.
Yeah.
He'd be shit out of luck. But no, not Wesley, because I'm so horny for his mom, I can't do anything with my big brain.
Yeah.
Which he doesn't really have.
Right, I'd like to modify my question, and I would base this on you're allowed to pick any of the major captains from the Star Trek universe. If you guys want to start getting weird ass and technical going into books, you better be prepared to explain yourself utterly. Who would you hold? Who would you pick as the captain of the ship that is the Federation's primary ship? Now, I'm not saying it has to be the Enterprise, because there have been times it hasn't been. But who would you pick as the primary captain? And explain.
I don't think I understand the question, because I don't know what a primary captain is.
You mean who would you put in charge of the flagship?
Yes.
Okay.
And I say primary captain, after all, because the number one officer takes over as brevet captain quite often in the series, as you'll have noticed.
That's true enough.
First officer.
I know, but nonetheless, that's why I said primary captain.
Okay, so it's someone who's of captain rank. And
No,
one of the wait.
Oh.
But someone who holds the rank of captain in the various Star Trek series.
That is who. No, you can
Those are the
pick
people we can choose from.
anybody from the Star Trek universe to be the person in charge of the flagship of the Federation. Who do you pick? And explain your answer, please. Yeah, that's made interesting.
That's not a simple question.
I know.
When you consider what the flagship does, it's a flagship. It's not sent. It's very rarely sent to dangerous encounters. It's mostly used diplomatic missions. So
I know.
Well,
I would put Picard in charge.
In the Next Generation, it's mostly used for diplomatic
Oh, incidentally, good evening, everyone.
missions.
Good morning.
Morning.
Well, you say potato, I say, what the fuck am I doing up at this hour?
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, like
for
I
me,
said,
it remains Kirk.
I haven't
That's
finished.
pretty simple.
It's a flagship. Flagship mainly used for diplomatic missions. It's very rarely put into a dangerous situation, primarily because it's a flagship. It's a symbol.
It shouldn't be. I agree.
It's that position is a position of prestige
So
and status, but not actually doing the job of exploration, which is what Starfleet is set up for.
Well,
So I would definitely put Picard in charge because Picard is a good diplomat.
once
Okay.
again, it depends upon where in the universe are you dealing with it. Because are you talking about Picard? If Picard
Just
was
explained
in charge
it.
of, hold on, Picard was in charge of the quote unquote Enterprise, right? During the TOS time frame, the Enterprise would have been another freaking dead ship laying there, just like the Excalibur and even the Defiant.
Well, he's just said it's the flagship. He didn't say it has to be the Enterprise. He said it's the
No,
flagship.
No,
that's what I
but-
was very careful about.
And
pointing out.
as I've explained, the flagship is very rarely put into a dangerous situation.
But in
almost always
TOS,
used-
the Enterprise was the
Even in the
flagship
two.
of the
No, it wasn't.
Yes,
It
it
wasn't.
was.
No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
That's
the
a retcon
Constitution
set up
was.
by people who don't understand
Yeah.
Star Trek.
When,
I believe it was.
okay. What ship was the
I believe it was the Constitution, after which the class is named.
Makes sense.
I don't think they ever even mentioned it.
No.
In fact, I'm pretty sure they didn't.
Yeah, it's something that turned out in novels and stuff, I believe. But it wasn't the Enterprise. The Enterprise was just another starship.
Yeah, it was just another in a long line of workhorses.
Yeah.
Well, there were
All the ships back then were basically workhorses.
There were
Yep.
13 at one point. There were 13,
12.
13 ships. Right. It
There were
depends on
12
at what
Constitution
time.
class.
Okay.
In
but
the,
you can
in the
count
original
13.
series, there were 12.
You can count.
He actually
13 of them.
he actually says it. Tomorrow's yesterday.
I have
Yeah,
no
he says that
idea.
it's one of 12.
His actual words were, "There are only 12 like it in the fleet."
Thank you.
All right. Well, that to me tells me there's 13.
That actually says that there are 12.
Yeah.
No, that says there's
No,
Because-
actually, Nomad's right. Because
Nuh-uh.
there's 12 like it, which means you have it and
No,
12 more.
No, it means that you have this design of which there are 12. There are only 12 like it in the fleet. Now, if he said there are only 12 others, there are only
It
there are only
depends on
12 more.
How you hear that? Because, like I said, I hear it as you.
Oh, I
have
hear it as
12
it is.
others
There are
like
only
it.
12 like her in the fleet.
Like her. That doesn't mean she's
Yeah,
included.
including her.
No,
Right.
there's no
According to
including
Memory
her.
Alpha, which is accurate because,
Memory Alpha is Alpha canon, by the way.
yeah, 12 Constitution class starships.
Da-da-da, da-da-da.
Well,
Da-da-da.
Memory Alpha can have their opinion, and I'll have mine.
Well, here we go. All right, nerd fight. Everyone glove up. No,
It's
Hold
obviously
on.
We're arguing,
If we're having a Star
arguing
Trek
semantics and so
If
forth
we're
there.
having a
I know,
Star
it's
Trek
a
nerd
nerd
fight
fight.
here, we've got to do it properly, right? Ding, ding,
Dun,
ding.
dun, 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 dun,
Eh,
dun, 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 dun. Anyhow,
Oh,
what was the question? Who do you put in command of the
Who would you
flagship?
put
Yeah.
in command of the flagship? I'm
Okay.
curious.
See, that's
I've given you my answer and the reason.
Yes.
I think the two best captains are Kirk and Cisco, but not for a flagship kind of position.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would agree with you
You,
there.
you think that you like Cisco
Oh,
Cisco
God,
was a good
yes.
captain.
as a ship captain?
Yes.
He
From what
was
we get to
first
see,
officer.
I mean,
He was first officer of the
Saratoga.
ship. Yep,
Mhm.
before the
I-
boat
I'm
blew
not
it up.
okay. I'm not
Yeah.
talking. We're not talking about his qualifications, right? Because that's more than impeccable.
No,
And
his
his handling
qualifications are
and
very
his
much
eh,
part
eh,
of the question.
yeah, but and his handling of the Defiant is exceptional as well. The problem that I have with Cisco, all right, is you're seeing him in charge of the Defiant, but the Defiant has a very small crew in comparison. All right,
His space
there's a
station
huge
doesn't
difference
go.
between a starship, all right, and the Defiant.
The Defiant is a starship.
Yes,
Mhm.
Not from
the
the way
Defiant
that
is
they
a
were
star.
talking
No,
about.
the
The,
Defiant is
the term
starship.
the term starship is more directly related to how far it can travel rather than its assignment.
Okay,
Yeah.
if you take a look at the reason I'm referencing that goes back to the episode with the where it's like the Romans and the SS Beagle has
Yep.
been there, and he references he's not just a captain; he's a captain of a starship, a very
No, not just a
different
spaceship captain, a starship captain, a
right,
very
Yeah.
different breed.
But the SS Beagle, if you're going to go with that point, was considered a starship.
He's
It
got
would
you
have
there,
to be.
Mitch.
Right,
It
but he
would.
wasn't. But he wasn't. But he's referencing something different. That's what I'm trying to point out.
Maybe.
Merrick is
But then again,
Mericus.
but,
Merrick.
but
well,
then again,
He was called Merricus by the Romans.
yeah. But then again, this Roman consul was talking about civilization, organizations, which he didn't really understand.
True enough.
No, but
I
I'm
mean,
referring
you
to
could-
Merrick's commentary. Okay.
Yeah, and I believe he did actually say not just a spaceship captain, but a starship captain,
Yeah,
which does
So-
imply that there's a difference between the two. Even though in the context of the story being told, the Beagle, based on my definition, would have to qualify as a starship.
Right.
Yeah,
That's what I was trying to point
because
out.
it could travel amongst the stars.
But then
But,
again, I believe the Beagle wasn't the USS Beagle; it was the SS Beagle.
Yes,
Right.
it
That's what I
was,
said.
because-
The SS Beagle.
So
because it
that
merchant
might
service.
yeah, it was more merchant service than military. So that might be the kind of difference he was talking about too.
But
It's a
the,
stretch.
It's
I'll
not
grant you it's a
It's not
stretch.
indicated that it's
the
civilian.
Defiant, the Defiant from Deep Space Nine is officially classed as a starship.
Once again, this is playing hard, a little bit fast between the different generations as well. All right.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Well, the
there's gonna be
generation
changes.
thing may be a component in that descriptor as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
But since we can't sit here and quiz all of them, we can only quiz each other. We'll never get a real answer.
But
Right,
here's the
well-
one for you, Nomad. Cisco could command a space station and a ship. He was that versatile.
Oh, I didn't say that he wasn't versatile. He's not, and I'm not saying that I dislike Cisco. All right, of the different characters that you run into in the Star Trek
It's
universe,
because of his skin color, isn't it?
he is my second favorite. All right, and I
Your,
do
your
like
first being Kirk.
first being Kirk.
Good man. Good man.
Okay, and the one thing that he does more than anything else, right, that I like is he's willing to take the hard decisions, all right, and it's demonstrated, all right, which is very Kirk-like. Kirk, there are a number of episodes where Kirk is forced to make the Faustian choice, all right, and
Hey,
where
here's
he
the one
makes
for you,
it,
Nomad.
as much as possible. Whereas on a what is it in a pale moonlight,
Mm-hmm.
or I think that's what it is. It demonstrates
Yeah.
that. Demonstrated
I can live with
conclusively
it.
that
That-
he had to make that Faustian choice, and
Mhm.
did. Now, none of the other characters, right, in the next generation seem to have that kind of moxie. None of them.
No, they've had
No.
too easy a life.
Right.
Here's one for you, Nomad. You know that episode of The Next Generation where Worf's stepbrother saved the inhabitants of that planet that was about to blow up, basically? And Picard was pissed off because it was breaking the Prime Directive.
Oh, yes.
Kirk wouldn't have been pissed off because to him it wouldn't be breaking the Prime Directive
I would agree.
because they weren't exposing them to a more advanced culture, or they were hiding it anyway.
They were trying to.
Convincingly.
He was doing whatever he could to save cultures. In fact, that's one of the things that
Yeah.
that
Yep.
they do several different times. All right,
Yeah,
and
but that was the difference between how the Prime Directive was written for the original series and how it's been vastly misinterpreted in the Next Generation
Right.
onwards.
And the other thing about the Prime Directive in the TOS was if they were dealing with a spacefaring culture, the Prime Directive did not apply.
Right.
Uh,
That's largely true
but-
for the Next Generation era too.
yeah, to a large degree, you're right. But you also had to respect the boundaries of other races.
Okay,
Right,
my
but that's
turn.
that's different than Prime Directive stuff,
Yeah.
though.
Yeah, my
It's like,
turn.
okay, this
Yeah.
planet
All
is now this planet's
Yeah.
not part of the Federation, but it's surrounded by it. But that's their space. We
Mhm.
don't fuck around with their space.
Yeah, but when you got to the likes of Star Trek Voyager, they really didn't know how the Prime Directive worked because they used to get the Prime Directive even if they're dealing with the race that's equal in technology.
Hey, guys,
Well, they-
you're all bigots. None of you have said Michael Burnham as captain. What is your problem? She
Oh,
made
that's obvious.
Who?
Star Trek Discovery. I'm
What?
taking the piss.
Never
Exactly.
heard of that.
I don't blame you. I'm taking the piss. I consider that literally a bad fever dream, and we'll just pretend it never happened, and hopefully it will
Send
go
what
away.
never happened.
Exactly.
Look, I've said it
Seriously,
before, and
actually, funny enough, I agree with overall all of you. Actually, fairly accurate with your choices, but equally, if you notice, each of you pick the captains for specific things. You're not actually looking at an overall. I actually
Well-
don't know who I would pick. I'll be honest with you.
You
well,
did
I
the
haven't
same
even
with
picked yet.
Didn't
I
you pick,
haven't
sir?
even
Oh,
picked yet.
I
just said,
apologize.
oh, that's
Please.
fine. That's fine. That's fine. I just said that my two favorites are Kirk and Cisco,
but
Yeah.
not for a flagship.
but not for a flagship because the likes of Kirk and Cisco, because they are tactically minded,
Yes.
they're both tacticians in their own way.
Yeah.
They are the captains you hold in reserve for the
Yeah.
fuck around and find out scenario.
Oh, God,
Meanwhile, Jean-Luc Picard is the guy you keep around for the fuck around and let's not find out because that would be bad scenario.
I've just thought I'm going to change my choice.
Mhm.
Captain Jellicoe, because he's a good tactician. But if
Yes, he is.
if things, sorry, he's a good diplomat. He's just as good a diplomat as Picard, right? He can handle the social nicety. But
Yes.
if it turns into a fuck around and find out situation, he'll have your back.
Yeah, actually, I think I would go with Captain Jellicoe.
Jellicoe is good in one huge sense that's absolutely critical for them, and that is Jellicoe has the ability of placing the mission first, regardless of his own personal
Yeah.
feelings. Right? There's
If
Yes.
Jellicoe,
only
if Jellicoe being
Kirk,
captain,
only Kirk, and Cisco to a point demonstrated that. None of the other captain. That's not demonstrated by Riker. That's never demonstrated by any of the TNG crew. All right, and the rest of the TNG crew.
oh, it definitely wasn't demonstrated by fucking Janeway.
Don't get me started on Janeway. On
There's a
Voyager,
reason
actually.
we didn't bring up freaking Voyager as well.
You know, it's bad. We brought up STD before we brought up Voyager.
Look,
There's a lot.
you know what? You want to know the big issue I have with Star Trek Voyager? It's not the multiple photon torpedoes that they fired exceeding their self-imposed limit.
Yeah.
It's the self-imposed limit.
Yeah.
That's one. That's one of the. I have several big issues actually, but that's one. All they needed in that first episode was some line about, well, we'll have to manufacture torpedoes as we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all they would have to say.
Really speaking, you know that where they run across that other starship that had been trapped.
Yep.
That's the kind of state Voyager should have been in.
Yes. But the other big issue I have is with the feminists. The big feminist angle. Oh, we've never had a lady starship captain, blah, blah, blah. They're just so busy patting themselves on the back. We made a lady starship. How come she doesn't have the center seat?
Yeah.
If it's so progressive and modern and feminine. No, bullshit. That show for 7 years was anti-woman because the captain, a woman, did not have the center seat. She had the command bench. And she had to share the command bench with Block of Wood Commander Chakotay on the command bench.
Yeah, and it was also anti-male as well.
Yes, it was.
It
was anti-everybody.
God, I mean that fucking Balana Torres.
Oh fuck.
There's this guy. The two most senior engineers. There's the Mach E1, Balana Torres, and there's the Starfleet guy who actually knows much more about the fucking workings of Voyager than Torres does.
Yeah.
I think Jimmy even said he's a better engineer, but I'm giving the job to Torres.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck off, you stupid bitch.
Hold on, Batman. There's two things going on there, and I'm not defending Torres when I say this. I'm actually defending the line, he's a better engineer.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't necessarily make him a better department head.
This is true, but Torres wasn't a better department head either.
No, she wasn't.
She butted heads with everybody. Hell, she butted heads with the man she married.
Let's be honest. She's half Klingon. She's basically going to pick a fight if she was in the room on her own.
That's bullshit. That's like saying Vulcans are genetically predisposed to having no emotion.
Yeah.
Which
they actually did in the Next Generation onwards.
Yeah, but that's different. That is a learned thing. Klingons actually have.
So is anger.
You think so?
No,
yeah. Anger is a learned response, unless you have a birth defect. I mean, we've seen incredibly thoughtful Klingons.
You don't think that Klingons are a birth defect on the road?
We have seen Klingons who are incredibly thoughtful.
Which makes them the birth defect, theoretically.
Maybe, maybe not. It might make them an outlier within that society. But Torres, treating every minor situation as a reason to shout, I'm Klingon, and start breaking shit, which is essentially what she did.
She just used it as an excuse.
Was shit writing.
I agree with that. That part of it. The writers for Voyager suck, generally.
She was just using her Klingon heritage as an excuse to misbehave.
Yeah, basically. And they never address it in that way. If they had addressed it in that way,
that is one of the problems throughout the
if Tom had pointed it out.
Voyager.
Yeah.
I mean, 7 of 9's bad behavior. She had far more of an excuse than Torres. Yet Janeway kept pulling her down because of it every single time.
Yeah, because 7 of 9 spent a huge hunk of her existence without humanity, and without all that humanity, she wasn't bouncing around breaking everything in sight just because she had a hangnail.
Yeah,
but she did murder one of the 8472s.
Yeah, but she was part of the collective then.
No, she wasn't.
Oh,
there's an episode where she
it shows how much attention I paid to Voyager, doesn't it?
Yeah. There was an episode where they basically are trying to create a dialogue with 8472, and she just absolutely murders it. She says, "Okay, you're too much of a threat. Gone."
Yeah, well, that was the Voyager version of when they're trying to communicate with the crystalline entity in the Next Generation.
In a way, but it's a bad episode. I'm not gonna lie about that. But and the writing for Voyager was wildly inconsistent. Let alone
Voyager was the Buck Rogers of the Star Trek universe.
Indeed.
Well, part of the problem that they had, I think, with the writing for Voyager was
bad science fiction ideas. like the alien race that ages backwards.
not just that, the planet that's in a different time dimension.
Oh, the
Right.
planet where time passes by much quicker. Yeah,
And
that was stupid.
the episode where
They had some good ones, like that one with the war monument. That basically it was malfunctioning, and instead of like just projecting the project the history of the war, it gave people PTSD from the war.
But is that the one with the flute? Or
No, that was
No.
the next generation.
that was a
Okay.
generation.
That was TNG.
apologies, carry on.
I don't know if I
Because
remember that one or not.
yeah, it was Chakotay, Harry Kim, and Paris were having PTSD episodes because of it.
Okay.
Oh, there's the one. Harry Kim.
Yeah.
I know in the game he's a captain, right? But let's
Mm.
face it, he never rose above the rank of ensign in his entire career in Starfleet.
Oh, hell no.
Correct.
Because they hated
when you
Garrett
first
Wang.
had to ask why was that?
I've got to say though, Harry Kim and Tom Paris in the Next Generation era, two of my favourite characters.
Well, they at least had the they were the buddy cop movie.
Yeah, they were like
You know,
Bashir and O'Brien.
yes,
Yeah.
Yes.
except it wasn't a reluctant friendship on the part of one of them.
Yeah, actually, yes, it was.
Okay. First of all, I would actually, for me, I would pick Locutus of Borg. He'd make an awesome captain. 2, who would you say was your favourite?
He just summoned it, the fucking crew.
Like I said, he would become efficient and he would do his job very well.
Yes, he'd summon the Borg.
Again,
That's not what
I'm
we
waiting
want
for
here.
that. No. That's not what you want. There is a difference.
Well, yeah, but how does that fit with the rest of the Federation? He's not. He
Well,
would be a good Federation captain.
He would about
He wouldn't get the job
48
anyway.
hours later, as he's taken over.
He wouldn't get the job.
I know, because it'd go to Borg Queen.
He'd submit his application and go, sorry, you're a Borg, fuck
don't
off.
even talk about the freaking Borg. The whole concept of the Borg Queen was fucking stupid. Pardon my language.
Yes,
Yeah,
It was
I agree.
absolutely stupid. They screwed up the Borg when they created the
for
Borg
feminism.
Queen.
For feminism.
Well, no, they wanted to mirror the concept of an insect hive because they used the phrase hive mind. Now, here's what they don't understand going forward from that concept. They have just laid the groundwork for there to be multiple Borg hives.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't have a collective
Now,
anymore, can you?
now that would have been an interesting turn if they wanted to go with their Borg Queen thing. That would have been an interesting turn to explore, but they never bothered to take the concept to its logical conclusion.
Agree?
It's kind of like what I did in that Star Trek The Next Generation role-playing game I did. Where I actually included magic and supernatural beings, and there was an entire section of the Borg had been possessed by a demon.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So you have this Borg
Janeway,
cube from a
Janeway
distance.
had a comeback in your world, huh?
From a distance, it looks like an old Borg cube. But as it gets closer, you see it's comprised of bones and viscera.
I'm okay with that one.
Now, what was your next question, Mr. Quinn?
Right. Favorite character from the Star Trek universe? And again, I'm going all the way back to basically Archer all the way through. Who would you pick as your favorite character and why?
Does it have to be one?
Yes. That is the one thing. You have to pick one specific person. Who would you pick and why? The important part is the and why for obvious reasons.
I'm going to go with Ensign Pavel Chekhov because, he was like the young person's eyes into the show. He was amusing. He was very good at his job, and he was a fucking troll.
I would question this, sir. Do you mean Pavel Chekhov from
The real Pavel Chekhov.
The original series, not
The
from the
real
films,
Pavel-
because
the real one.
films were a bit.
The
I
real
dunno.
one.
Okay. Okay.
There's only
Just
one
check.
Pavel Chekhov.
Okay. All right then. Nomad. Who and why?
My favorite character.
It's not as easy as people think. They just
I
grab
would,
someone.
to be honest, my
Yeah.
favorite character is probably Worf.
Wow. I did not expect that.
Well,
Okay.
because
Okay.
Wolf can shout louder than he can.
No such thing.
All right, it's not that. It's of all the. If you take a look at all the characters, right, within the
Mhm.
universes and so forth, they did a far more credible job of character development with him. I'm not saying there weren't flaws,
On Deep Space
Okay.
Nine.
but
Yes,
for
on Deep Space Nine.
but for the most part, his character remained consistent and always growing.
Like
There
in the
was
next
always
Minsk.
generation,
something different with Worf that you were not really, and let's be honest, you had to respect Worf.
Yes.
Minsk.
Once he got rid of frickin' the Cosby bitch. All right. Everything on the Enterprise got that much more interesting. It
the
really
Cosby
did.
bitch. The Cosby bitch.
Yes.
Are you
Denise
talking about his
Crosby.
son when you say the Cosby
No,
bitch?
Denise Crosby, he means.
Yes.
Oh, Denise
Hey,
Crosby.
no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the next generation, the main reason they had Worf on there was to get beaten up by the alien of the week.
Pretty much.
Well, yes, to show how tough the alien of the week was.
Yeah. Okay, Mitch.
I mean, how many times did
Yours.
he get beaten up by Councillor Troy?
I don't want to talk about that. But I'm having a bit of a conundrum because I have a tie. And it's
Okay.
for it's kind of for the same reason.
Okay,
It's
go on.
for their absolute humanity and how they wouldn't just stand there and take shit from anybody.
I
it's,
will allow a tie here, but again, I want explanations for each of them.
Well, they did it in different ways, though, and I'm trying. That's where I'm having a hang up. It's
Okay.
either Montgomery Scott or Leonard McCoy.
Two good choices there.
I'm all right with this, yeah.
Because when that one commissioner, what's his face, your name will feature heavily in my report.
Yeah.
Be that as it may, the screens stay up. Because he
Yep.
wasn't taking any shit. He wasn't risking the ship. He was going to
Yep.
do what he could to get his captain back. I love that about Scotty. And
Yep.
McCoy, well, you show up and McCoy's ready with an argument for you. He's such a grouchy old fart.
This is a fair statement. Okay.
And he's
Interesting.
he's entertaining and he brings
Go
a
on.
kind of angry humanity that isn't evil and vile to the table.
This is true. Very much so.
Long suffering.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting. You all picked Feddes. I would have actually, and this is where I'm pretty confident that Nomad's going to jump down my throat, but I would have actually picked Garak.
Oh, that's a good choice too, actually.
Garrick is,
like-
Garrick is probably in some ways Garrick is my favorite character, except for Worf, because the fact is Worf
Okay.
expands the TNG and Deep Space Nine. But
all
Garrick
right.
on
You
Deep
know,
Space
the-
Nine, if it was just Deep Space Nine, I would have chosen Garrick because he's the more interesting of all the characters.
Well, he's the most sophisticated and complicated character.
Yeah.
I'm modifying my question again, then. It's only a minor modification. As we've gone for two as an overall, you said you had two people, Batman. Who is your second?
My second would have been Dr. McCoy for pretty much the same reasons Mitch did, but he's the one about Garrick for you, trying to say that him and Bashir were gay now.
No, God, no.
Yep.
Now, shippers can ship out.
Yep. If I was going to pick my second, I'd actually pick Quark. I loved Quark.
Quark had one great outstanding moment, and that's when he out-logicked the Vulcan lady.
That was
Actually,
hilarious.
He had two when he out-Klingoned the Klingon.
Also funny.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah, I mean, Quark had some some great moments, but they were never. There was never enough to solidify him as a favorite for me. He is a, but not the favorite.
In another universe,
Yeah.
in a completely different universe, in another time, Quark is a raccoon.
That's true.
Yeah, it's a fair statement, actually. Yeah. But more or
No,
less, you actually saying the reason
Quark
I
is too
picked it.
much of a. Let's be honest. The main character flaw that kills it for Quark, at least with me, is Quark is too much of a coward.
No, he isn't.
I think that's a key component.
You know,
I
Yeah.
don't
it
think
is.
he is.
It's an element of his character, and he's too much of a.
No, he isn't. Like I said, he stood up to a fucking Klingon.
He had no choice.
Well, see,
Yes, he
that's
did.
why it's brilliant, though.
Yes, he really did have a choice. He could have run for it, and he could.
No, he couldn't because he knew he couldn't escape.
Yes, he could though. That's the thing. He
No.
could have gone back to Ferenginar. He would have been safe.
I don't think
Yeah.
so.
Yes, he
Oh,
would.
what would the Ferengi have done? Sold weapons at the Klingon?
Yeah.
No, they would have
Which,
had no.
which is a problem.
Look at these receipts. Are you out of your mind?
It is a problem that
They could have actually.
with
They
how
could have
they
foreclosed on the
created
Klingon
the
Empire.
Ferengi.
Yeah, that's actually true there, that man.
Okay, can I throw a question in?
Go for it.
Okay, who is your which character do you think did not live up to their potential, or was
I can't answer that.
either didn't live up to their potential, or was or their character development was let down by the writing?
Okay, who would you like to start first?
Let's go clockwise with you, Mr. Quinn.
Again, my answer is Garrick. I don't think that they used him as well as they could have. There was so much more to his story that they could have put in. Unfortunately, they tried at one point, but it got, the best way I can put it is soppy. It really did get too schmaltzy, I think is the right way to put it. They needed to modify it, and I think it would have actually made an amazing story. Again, they could have actually done a spin-off of his history, I feel.
Garrick versus the Romulan embassy.
Well, that, yeah, but I'm actually looking at Garrick and some, not just one, because let's be honest, some of the reasons Golda Cat. He would have been my second, by the way. I feel I'm going too much on the Cardassians here, but nonetheless, I do like those characters. I really do. And Golda Cat is someone they could have done a lot more with as well for a second.
Have you noticed the Mirror Universe version of Garrick is exactly the same as his Prime Universe counterpart?
There is a reason. He was a heartless little bugger at the best of times.
Yep.
Yes.
That's
Batman, what about you?
Maybe it's an unpopular opinion here, but Councillor Troy.
Ah.
When she was first introduced, she was a full telepath, right?
Yeah.
She did have a full conversation with Riker telepathically, but they were also joined at the metaphorical crotch.
Yeah, but she was also going on about all the minds she could feel on the ship. But the thing is, the writing let her down, right?
Yes.
She quickly turned into a joke character, and that was in no small part because of the actress who couldn't.
Yeah, the writing let her down when
Marina
in the first
let me
episode she
finish.
wasn't
Let
beamed into deep space on wide dispersion. Okay?
Yeah, you take over. Go on. No. I mean, she was based quite heavily on Lieutenant Ilea from the original series movie, the motion picture.
Yeah.
But let's face it, Marina Sirtis can't act to save her fucking life.
Not really. That's why she did so many titty shots before TNG.
Yeah. And she was the main fucking culprit in the ruination of Troy, because she couldn't act, and so they started writing her as a spoiled little princess. Because let's face it, that's all Marina Sirtis is. She's also she's an East End tart, isn't she, Jenson? That's all she is.
Right. No, he's right.
I'll go along with that.
She doesn't even rise to the level of a bint.
Woman, she's a kind of girl You wouldn't take home to meet your stepmother if you hated your stepmother.
It's true.
She's less than a chav.
Yeah.
Okay, Nomad, what about you?
Or the character that the writing really let them down. I would have to say of the going back to TOS, right? That you're dealing with Uhura.
Yeah.
All right. The fact is at times they started to explore and give her an expanded role, and then they they would just cut it off at the knees.
You could
All right.
say that about any of the
But
regular casts that weren't the big three.
but she could have been so much more to the characters because they always hinted at it, and they just
So
never.
could Chekhov, and so could Sulu.
uh,
They were given the same amount of development as her.
No, they were given more.
Yeah,
What, you think?
Chekhov had a running joke with Invented in Russia.
yeah.
Sulu had the spirit of a swashbuckler. Uhura answered phones.
Yeah, fair enough.
There was
He's
one
not wrong.
episode where she actually takes over navigation, and
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
but they don't explore
But,
that then. All
And
right.
they also give her the wrong. They also give her the wrong fucking uniform as well in that episode.
Well,
She
that was a lot of people had different uniforms in that episode.
No, it was one episode, and they had her wearing Command Gold.
Yeah, that's not the only episode she wore Command Gold.
Just to my knowledge.
To sidestep you a little bit there, Nomad, I would like to point out that somehow, even though she was underserved by the writing, somehow Uhura got the reputation of the department head with whom you do not fuck.
Yeah.
She got a reputation as a badass, which she finally in Star Trek 3 with Mr. Adventure, she got to display it.
Yeah.
If
But
you remember,
even in TOS, she would snap back at Kirk if he had gone too far.
She was the only one who snapped back at Spock.
And
yes.
Kirk would apologize, you know.
And Spock would apologize.
Right. But,
yes.
But there was more. But see, that all goes back to there was so much more with the interplay they could have went with.
Yeah.
Oh God, yes,
right?
they could have. I would have loved it if they did.
That's where I think that the writing of all the
from a character
standpoint is they just didn't.
Roddenberry actually had to
bridge
fight
crew. The way they could have done things, they could have expanded her. They did more with Nurse Chapel than they did as far as character development perspective. All right, than they did with Uhura, and that I think is a crime.
Yeah, well, Roddenberry actually had to fight to keep her on the show. Both fight the producers and convince her. In fact, it wasn't Roddenberry convinced it was Martin Luther King that convinced it to stay on the show.
Now, see, it was my choice was Odo. Odo, I think, started off great.
Then they turned him into a comedy actor.
No, Rene Auberjonois has always been a very skilled actor in many different ways.
Yeah.
He did comedy before Deep Space Nine.
Oh.
But they ruined Odo by making him horny for Kira.
Yeah, he wouldn't have any sexual interest in a human.
No, he wouldn't. He shouldn't anyway. It would have been perfectly fine because they tied in the whole, Odo for years thought that his thing was about justice, but it turns out it was about order because you could argue that the changelings actually do have something like a genetic memory because of the Great Link.
Mm-hmm.
And they weren't born out of nothing. They were born out of that link. So so that sense of order could be generational and could present itself as seeking justice.
I have my own.
And that is a much more interesting Odo than pining over Kira while she fucks every other guy who has a title.
Well, let's be honest.
She was
from a writing perspective, they didn't do Kira Neresa's character a whole lot of justice either.
They had some great moments with her too, like in Duet.
They had better moments than they had with several of the other characters. Even
let's face it. There wasn't much of a character to improve anyway. She was basically the stock angry female military officer.
Yeah, right. But at least she developed enough to calm
Yeah.
down a bit.
yeah.
I've got my own question. You might find this one easier to answer. I'll start with Mitch and go clockwise. Any of the Star Trek shows, right?
Yeah.
3 people who you would like to sit in a bar or a pub with and have a drink.
Pause. I would like clarification. Do you mean the actors or the characters?
I said series, so I presume you knew I meant characters.
I just wanted clarification on that, mate. All right, carry on.
Oh, God. Let's see. I almost want to start off with Scotty and McCoy again.
Your choice.
See, look, those two guys between them had enough liquor to power the Enterprise if the dilithium and the antimatter disappeared.
Yeah. Plus, I suspect in the original series, McCoy had more of a friendship with Scotty than he did with Spock.
Possibly, but never got to see it. But of course, they could have been two alike and butted heads as a result too. But it's the third where I get the hang up. I think I would have more in common with Kirk than I would with Sisko, so I'm going to go with Kirk. And the reason for that is, like Kirk, I'm not raising a family.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not a major consideration in my decisions in my day-to-day functioning as an officer. So I think that would be it'd be Scotty, Kirk, and McCoy. I think. Unless I think it through and have some other ideas later. But go on. Move on to the next guy.
Oh, and the Nomad.
I would have to say, right, you're just drinking, right? You're having a drinking party, right?
Yeah, just like quiet drink, chat, stuff like that.
Commiseration.
All right. I would take Worf.
I knew you were going to say that.
Garrick.
Minsk.
and I would take Scotty.
Why do you
Because
keep saying
it
Minsk?
is going to be a party one way or another.
Minsk was the comment that was made from Worf and his family because that's where he came from. In, Russia.
It was at the end. Yeah. It was at the end of DS9 where I think it was Bashir was not Bashir. O'Brien was trying to figure out where to live.
Yeah.
On Earth.
Yeah.
And everyone kept bringing up possibilities of Worf. They'd say, well, so such and such place is this, such and such place that, and Worf was just Minsk.
Yep, I remember that.
And then they'd go on about the conversation a bit more, and like a drunk who thinks he wasn't heard the first time, Worf just repeats himself, Minsk.
Yep,
it's a brilliant little bit of a scene at the end of Deep Space Nine.
Agree.
I think just having Worf there with Scotty getting drunk. And then having Garrick play, because Garrick always had a very odd dynamic with Worf. All right, it wasn't confrontational, but it wasn't necessarily friendly. So having them there while they discuss things, because Garrick will always be the worst one at throwing in the one-liners.
Oh yes,
yeah.
Okay, and so he's right there to move any conversation always along while you're drinking.
Yeah.
Right. And yet the other two are more than willing to challenge, especially when they're in with their own bailiwick. And with Scotty, the one thing you can do is you can talk about Scotty about damn near everything. This is one of the advantages to him. You could talk to him about technical stuff, or you could talk to him about drinking.
True, but if you get him emotionally invested, he's a walking heart attack.
Yes.
What do you think, you lunatics? That's what they'll call us. They'll say we're so desperate to exonerate the captain that we'd say anything.
And then he'll turn around and go, would you like to rephrase that, laddie?
Yeah.
So you gotta have if it comes to a bar brawl, I like
Oh,
my
he'll throw the
chances
first
with those
punch.
three. I really do.
I think in his prime, if it came to a Barbara, Scotty could take off.
Oof.
Maybe. Scotty was no pushover, and he was no
Ne-
slouch.
but neither was
Yeah.
Garrick.
Right. I mean, Garrick played one on TV
Yeah.
Yeah.
for obvious reasons. That was his
Yeah.
part of his disguise.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
But that's why I said it would be a fascinating conversation because you could run the gambit of whatever you want to go with. Anyway, those would be my three.
Right, Jensen.
Okay. This will not. Two of them will not surprise anybody. In fact, actually, none of them will surprise anyone that knows me. I would pick Garrett. Could you imagine the conversations you could have with that guy?
Just having 7 and 9 was not on the table, right?
No one said this.
Yeah, Voyager's not
two.
included.
I'm still okay with that. I'm going to claim Picard. Screw you. Right. As I say, I'm going to pick Garrick because of his conversation. I'm going to pick Quark. He comes with his own bar. Screw you. I win. And I'm going to pick 7 of 9 before she had the implants removed.
Yeah, so you're just going to end up with
No. You never said anything about her having her ability to change people. You just said for chatting and things like that. She would be fascinating to chat with. Can you imagine her and Garrick? The conversations they could have.
All she keep telling you is, yeah, that is irrelevant. You will be assimilated. That's all she'd say.
She was not that bad when she first got. Well, when she first.
She was disconnected from the collective far before she had I'd say far,
Yes.
but before she had the implants removed.
Yeah,
I know exactly. That's what I'm trying to say.
You want to disconnect it from the collective?
Yes, but
She
still with the implants because
she wouldn't know how to function. She wouldn't know how to function with in a social environment at all.
I'm just picturing the Borg after they assimilate Garrick.
Exactly.
Oh,
so
you might look like we're here to assimilate you, but really, when you look at the details, you'll notice something else. He would convince them to look in a completely different direction. Meanwhile, way over here, they're still getting assimilated.
Yep.
Is a crossover universe one for you than me? The Borg assimilate Michael Garibaldi.
Peekaboo.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, for mine, I would have Scotty.
Okay.
I would have Mirror Universe Kirk.
Okay.
And I'd have to say Picard. I mean, all three, because you've got to have a hell of a fucking conversation with all of them. Each of them is going to have fucking incredible stories to tell you.
Yeah.
So do you think Mirror Picard would bore you to death with conversations about archaeology that no one cares about?
No.
I mean intentionally.
Yeah, to lull you. I said Mirror Kirk.
It's a tactic. I'm just thinking out loud.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right.
I really don't like Picard.
Okay. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna have to bug.
I think we've been running this stream for long enough anyway, so we're gonna have to stop it here. Thanks for coming out, everybody. Hope you all enjoyed the show. We're gonna let y'all go now. Talk to y'all later. Bye bye, everybody.
See you later.
How would you give it again? Yeah.
Bye.
And we're